Welcome to Vibrant Living Conversations. I'm your host, Gemma Putty. I'm so excited to be bringing conversations from North Idaho and across this region to support us all from glowing from the inside out by connecting more deeply to ourselves, our earth, and our communities. For today's interview, I'm talking with Amy Gates. Amy is one of those people who I've had one degree of separation from through a lot of people in CDA for quite some time. Then she popped up in my Instagram through Lavender Sun, which led me to booking a magical sound bath session with her on my birthday a couple of weeks ago. So now I get to talk to her a little bit more. So welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Gemma. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So we're going to dive in, and I know you've got like a really rich history of how you've gotten to where you are today, from yoga and trainings to now having the sound healing experience. So do you want to give us the synopsis of how you've gotten to where you are today?
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in the Seattle area. I went to University of Washington, and when I was going to school there, so I must have been 18, I took my first yoga class, and I really, truly was hooked from the first time I got on a mat and did yoga. I just had this upwelling in my heart of just joy, and everything just made sense, and I was hooked. So since then, I've been studying yoga. I moved to Coeur d'Alene about 20 years ago. Okay. I started teaching yoga then, and I've been on that path and journey since 2002. So
wow, so I know I'm the type of person who have done yoga for the last 10 years, but I've never actually done a training. Like, I've thought about it and it just hasn't been the right time. But I'm wondering the piece between starting yoga and then starting the training, how that has changed for you. Like, really, because yoga, we say yoga, and I used to just think flow, right? I'm just like moving my body, but then the more you get into it, there's like all of these pieces. Can you touch on some of those for someone that's like, yoga is just movement?
Right. Well, and that's actually a very Western approach, is yoga as asana, or yoga, the postures. A lot of people first come to yoga because they want to get in shape, or they want to stretch, or they say, I'm not limber, I need to do yoga. And a lot of people start on that physical level, like I said, especially in our Western culture. But really the richness of yoga comes from meditation and pranayama, which is the breath work, philosophy, those types of things. And when I first started with yoga, I was a lot like that. I went to yoga class because I was just going to yoga. I wasn't really thinking about everything that yoga encompassed. And when I moved to Coeur d'Alene in 2002, I quit my job, left the city, left my friends, my family, moved here. And I really didn't know anyone, and I didn't have a job at the time. I was getting married and going through all of that. And I started going to the gym, and I was at the gym a lot. Right. And the director of fitness just said to me, hey, I need a yoga teacher. Will you go get certified and teach for me? And I was like, oh gosh, sure, absolutely. So that's how I started. And I started very basic with a very sort of gym friendly style yoga through Yoga Fit. And I went all the way through that. I did all their levels. I did every workshop they had. I did prenatal, I did kids yoga training. I did all of it. Yeah. And then through that, I actually found Shiva Ray, who's a pretty world-renowned, amazing goddess of a woman. And she teaches many things, but vinyasa flow. So that was my first certifications. I traveled to California. I followed her everywhere and did that. And then I guess in the last 10 years, then I found Anusara Yoga. In the last 4 years, I started doing teacher training with Anusara. And that is my main focus now, is Anusara Yoga. But I can't get rid of that flow. So my classes are kind of a hybrid, but the real philosophy and the underpinning of the methodology that I teach is Anusara Yoga.
Will you explain that a little bit more? I feel this is so bad that I've been doing it for 10 years and I'm seriously still like, wait, what's the difference between, I know what yin is because I know that one's super
Yeah.
relaxing and mellow. The others are still kind of a blur to me.
Right. Well, there are different schools of yoga. So you've got, I mean, there's the hot yogas of the world. You've got Bikram, you've got Baptiste style, you've got flow, you've got people Hatha, which is really all physical yoga. But Anusara yoga, and the reason why it's captured my heart is because it's a bhakti style yoga. So it's a heart-based devotional style of yoga, and it's underpinned in tantric philosophy. So in Anusara Yoga, we teach with the 5 principles of alignment. So it's a very alignment based practice. If you take a class with me or any Anusara teacher, you'll hear muscular, you'll hear open to grace, muscular energy, organic energy, inner spiral, outer spiral, and then there's all these loops all over the body. So it's very technical alignment wise, but we also teach with a theme. So Anusara Yoga, tantric philosophy, it's a non-dual philosophy. So basically, without getting too detailed, we believe, and tantric philosophy teaches, that we are all intrinsically good. So inside each and every one of our hearts is a light, and it's the same light that shines in the highest of heaven. So it's like a dual philosophy says, you're a sinner, and only if you do this can you be in the grace of God. Anusara actually means flowing with grace or being in the flow of grace. So it teaches us that we are all already in a state of grace. We are all already perfect and lovely and an embodiment of the divine. So how could you not be perfect and whole?
Right.
Which I love. The first time I got on my mat with my Anusara teacher, and she said to me, to the class, you are not a problem to be solved. You are not a mistake on this planet amongst other mistakes. You are here because you matter and you are worthy. And the entire philosophy that wraps Anusara Yoga is that beautiful. So we teach with the principles of alignment, and we teach with a theme, so that it is to invoke the attributes in our heart that are natural to us, our natural state of spiritual goodness and loveliness.
Oh,
So
I love
that's
it.
what like really grabbed me, and that's what I'm studying now. I'm currently in advanced teacher training with my teacher Karen at Garden Street Yoga. I'm doing the 500-hour Anusara teacher training. And it's
Amazing.
lovely. I love it.
Oh, that sounds, the first time I had really started to hear that thinking was actually when this is so funny, but I was watching Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
And there was like a moment where she's like, I don't remember where they were, probably in the Bali part, right? Where she's like in her, but God is in us as us. And it like really struck me. And I was like, what does that mean? And it just, I sat with it for a long time before it like really exactly kind of what you're saying. There's not this differentiation. It's energy, it's flow, it's higher power, but we are part of that. And there's not, yeah, I love everything you said. That is awesome.
A beautiful teaching, and it has so much depth, the different philosophies and teachings in it. That's just like sort of the 30-second or 3-minute elevator speech. Like,
Yeah.
how would you quickly and easily describe Anusara Yoga? But then there's all the stuff.
Yeah.
So I know, I mean, I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for 20 plus years, but I always say I'm a student first, because I'll never in this lifetime know everything that I can know. So
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's, I mean, you went from being like yoga umbrella to all of these pieces, to all of those pieces have their own theme and belief and style that is so beautiful, just to like, you keep peeling back the layers and follow like whatever path calls to you, right? And I think that's just beautiful.
well, and I think that's where a lot of back to kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of that, a lot of people come to yoga for the physical.
Yeah.
And that's actually part of the teaching, is that you can be drawn to it from the physical. That's like the gross layer, the macro layer. And then as you advance and you go deeper, it actually becomes more and more subtle. So you go from the gross, you know, the macro to the micro to the subtle to the vast, and that's like meditation, right? You suddenly end up in this space where it's everything and nothing all at once, and then you're like, wait, what's that? I want more of that. And so many people that I know that have been doing yoga for so long, they still love the asana, love it, love the breath work, love the challenge and all that, but you can get just as much kind of yoga out of sitting on your mat for 30 minutes with your eyes closed in deep meditation.
Yeah. So I've talked to a few people recently, and I'm more and more, as I'm communicating with people, I'm like, I just believe it's coming home to us. It's going inward. We need to stop looking outward. And that, of course, it leads to finding peace and meditating. So there's been a few people recently that are like, I can't meditate. I cannot sit there. What do you say to those people?
It's funny that you say that, because recently in my classes, I've been saying, you know, so many people say like, I can't sit still, or I can't quiet my mind. And I just recently, and I'll get back to your question, but one of the things I do say is, what if we switch the rhetoric to I can't to I get to, you know, I get to come to my mat. I get to quiet my mind. I get to be in a moment of stillness, because for me and all of us, I know, I mean, life is busy, right? I mean, like my teacher also says, life on planet Earth is messy, and it is like Earth school is hard school. That's another one of her favorite quotes of me. School is hard school, because here we are, you know, divine beings having this very human experience, and it's super hard to quiet our minds. But I try to look at it as, and I get to, because every time I get on my mat and every time I close my eyes for meditation, I think, oh, this is amazing. I want to be here. Right. But meditation, it's hard to teach somebody meditation, because it's such a personal thing. It's something that you just eventually learn and you find what works for you. But there are doorways into meditation. So there's so many different practices of meditation. There's mantra-based meditation, to where you're quieting your mind and you're connecting with your breath, but you're coming back to a mantra again and again. So your mind skips a beat and you come back to Hum Sa, and then you swirl again and it's back to Hum Sa or Namah Shivaya, or whatever the mantra is that you're using. Some people use a number, some people use a word, I mean, whatever, or you meditate on the breath, or you meditate. I mean, there's so many different doorways to meditation, and it's hard, it's challenging, but it's a practice, just like yoga asana is a practice. It's all a practice. For sure. And just how I tell people, you know, a bodybuilder doesn't get strong by not lifting weights. And when people say, I don't do yoga because I'm not flexible, or I don't meditate because I can't quiet my mind, that's like saying, I don't run marathons because I don't run. Or you know, like, I'm not strong, I can't lift 10 pounds, when they've never lifted one. You know, it's baby steps. None of us are naturally good meditators. We're not. You have to learn it and you have to practice it. So you have to be super gentle with yourself in the process, because over and over you can think, I'm doing it wrong. There I go again. I'm thinking, oh gosh, I've totally messed up. Oh, I just quit. So it's a gentle start with 2 minutes. Literally start with 2 minutes. Set your timer and start for 2 minutes, and then go to 5 minutes, and then 7 minutes, and then 10. And then pretty soon, years it might take, but 40 minutes won't feel like enough. And it's different for everyone. I
love that. I started with smiling meditation, and I honestly don't know how I even found this, but I was just in a place where I realized that when I was smiling, this changes everything. So I just sat there with my eyes closed, smiling. And then I realized that also observing the thoughts, the thoughts aren't just going to poof, be gone, but observing them and not being judging and realizing that there's a separation there was the game changer for me. Right.
That's the holy grail. It is. It's like, you're not your feelings, you're not your emotions, you're not your thoughts.
Right.
The person that can sit behind and observe. And once you get that that's advanced. So good job.
It's taken a lot of time.
Wow, awesome.
No, but I think that's just step one, right? Like step one. And for me, it was all of these amazing people are saying that meditation is the key, and yoga too, before I even started that, is the key to this feeling that I wanted, the peace, the inner like knowing. And I was like, okay, if all of these amazing people, like, I'm just going to trust that they're onto something, and I'm going to start. And I started, and exactly what you said, it just got longer and deeper. And yeah, there's
so much science that backs it. It's like when the mystical and the science merge, the magic and the science merge, and there's actual, tons and tons of research on what it does to our brain chemistry, what it does to our central nervous system, what it does to, our entire makeup. When you are a meditator, you practice yoga, mindful, you can do walking meditation. You can, once you know what it feels like, you can be washing dishes in a meditative state. It's all about that cessation of thought in favor, favoring the breath or favoring the mantra. But yeah, it's science based, that it really is like the fountain of youth.
And it becomes a way of living, exactly like you said. It's not like, oh, I have to go to my mat. You get to go to your mat, but you can also incorporate it into what used to be mundane activities. It becomes like very like important. And yeah, I love that.
One of the big teachings in Anusara yoga is that we practice for two reasons. And practicing is asana practice, pranayama practice, meditation practice, all of those. That we practice for two main reasons, and it's to remember our divinity. So to remember, and attributes of the divine are, an upwelling of joy and bliss, or a fullness of heart, or, this content feeling, beauty, all of those things that are our divine nature. But through the course of life and being householders, we have bills to pay, we have kids to take care of, all this, right? So we can't just be all blissed out, or else we'd have other problems.
Right.
So you remember yourself to yourself. So you remember, that's part of the practice. And then once you remember, it's that feeling that kind of hooks you. It's that, like that upwelling that you get of, oh, I don't know, I'm happy for no reason. What is this feeling that I have? And then there's like that celebration, that elation of the remembrance of yourself. And the thing is that we're constantly forgetting.
Right.
So we have to remember again, and then we forget, and then we're remembering. But we have these practices that can continually bring us back to that place in our heart. And for me, that's everything. It's like the holy grail.
And especially in this, like you said, we're humans living this experience, and then you like add 2 years, like the last 2 years have been, and it's coming home to yourself. It's finding that peace. It's finding the stillness and the craziness, which is the beauty of this human experience, right? It is, but it's like, we're not meant to just go through in the outward human worldly experience. Like we have that divinity and that connection inside to be the light, to be the guidance, to show up in the world in the way that we want to. And it is remembering that and making time for it, to be aligned.
And then it up levels everyone. It sheds off onto everyone around us, and it can up level communities and cities and the world, really. And and it comes all back down to love. And it seems so simple, yet it's so complicated. That's why we're always forgetting. And we always say you have to remember, because sometimes that's it. Oh yeah, that's right. I feel so lost, or like now it's Mercury retrograde and there's stuff going on, or my husband just had shoulder surgery, my puppy had parvo, then my other dog got a bladder infection, and then my puppy had it's like there are seasons of chaos. And if you don't remember that this is temporary, and there's a place I can go, that is ever present, never absent. It'll never leave me. Like this will never leave me. I might forget, but I have reliable practices to bring me back.
Yeah, no,
and
for
honestly,
sure.
that keeps me sane.
No, I completely agree. I think we talked about that. Both of us just
Yeah.
know that we need our alone time. And for me, it really is daily, whether it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's 20 minutes but I know that that is vital to me being a better version of myself and being the person that I want to be on this planet for everyone, and myself included, but for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think that kind of is almost a good segue. I was like, we're going to focus on sound healing. But I can't talk to you and not like touch on all of this other stuff. But so in all of your trainings now, I don't know how long have you been doing sound healing, and how did you get to that? Because that raises frequencies in a whole nother way that I will let you talk about.
So it's interesting because I've been studying yoga for like 30 years, teaching for 20. Right. And I just recently found sound healing a year ago. So I'm a baby. I'm in the infancy of this, but for me, it feels like when I found sound, it felt like, it was like the cherry on top. It was like everything that I've been learning and I'm still learning and experiencing. It was another modality to reach people and another way to teach the teachings, really sometimes without saying anything. Yeah. And just the beautiful way and the way the resonance just creates this like reverberation of love. I was hooked. And the very first sound bowl bath I ever went to was actually here at my studio. It was a friend of mine, her name's Cindy, and she came here and did this beautiful sound bath. And I laid there, and I swear it was the first gong of her bowl, I heard this voice, just like my intuition kind of came in my right ear and just hit me. And it just said, you need to be doing these. Wow. And I was like, I need to be doing these. And then we did 2 in a row. So I got to have that experience. And then the next day I got to have another one. And I just kept thinking, you need to be doing these. I need to be doing these. And so I started doing the research, and I found a gal in Montana. I bought some bowls, and then I found another gal on Instagram, actually, through this other lady who I follow that does sound healing. And I found some other bowls. So my set currently is brass bowls, Himalayan brass bowls, and crystal quartz bowls. And they each have their different sounds and vibrational frequencies. Some are more grounding, some are more uplifting. So yeah, I've just been playing with it. And a lot of it for me is intuitively guided. And nobody's really taught me. I did go to a workshop, a certification. So I have like a level 1, but for me, it feels like when I'm teaching a class and I'm in the flow and my words are coming out and my theme is landing and I know things are resonating in the bodies of my students, when I play the sound bowls, I just tap in and tune in. And it's almost like the sound to me is alive, and I can hear the nuances of the vibration and the way it carries out. And with all my years of studying yoga and meditation and breath work, to me, it's all part of it. It's like weaving a tapestry, or it's just part of it. So the guided meditation that I do when I'm playing the bowls, a lot of it is just intuitive for me.
Oh, I love that. Yes. When you just connect in and just trust and go with the flow, or your flow. I'm just thinking, I've had a few people that are like, what is a sound bath? Like, what qualifies something as a sound bath? Will you just explain when, you obviously have your healing session, which is what I got to experience with you, but then I know you incorporate it also in a group setting and in part of your yoga classes.
Yes.
So what does someone experience?
Okay, so lots of different offerings, but there's the sound bath, which is a group setting. It can be a duet, it can be, but basically you're bathing the people in sound. And you might have 5 people, 10 people, 30 people, and you're basically playing kind of like a concert of sound for the people. And mostly they're lying down. It's a meditative experience. You can sit up or be reclined. Eye pillows are really nice. It's very much an inward journey. So people experience lights and visions, and spirit guides come in and angels come in, and all sorts of fun, cool things can happen. Other people, they're like, oh, I couldn't, I didn't feel anything, or, I couldn't quiet my mind. And that's okay too, because the thing with sound is, even though they don't know they're getting something, because the vibration and the resonance is going in on a cellular level, and it's in the brain, and all the, it's stuff is happening, whether they know it or not. They're getting some healing and some benefits. So that's a bath. And then the private healing that I did with you, I created that offering on my own. I incorporated, guided meditation, as you know, bowls on the body. So you stand in the bowls are on your body. And then in the end, you got a sound bath. So the end of your private session, that was just a nice, lovely sound bath, the drum, the chimes, all of that. And then I also have created like a yoga sound fusion class that I teach weekly at my studio on Monday nights. And then I work with a group of healers, and once a month we do spiritual healing retreats. And I incorporate this type of thing to where I'm doing like some yoga asana and restorative yoga poses. So those are supported with blocks and bolsters and cushions and blankets and all of that to set you up in a really restorative posture. And then sometimes I put bowls on body, or I'll do a sound bath. So that's another offering that I've created. And for me, I love the sound, but I'm also, yoga is just such in my blood that I thought, well, why not in some of these offerings combine the two?
No, I love it. Yeah.
That's where that came from.
I love it. And it is all connected, right? Like we were talking about the chakras, and some of your bowls are different colors because, like you were saying, some of them are more grounding for lower chakras and some of them are more uplifting for higher chakras. And that alone, it's just another version of like talking about like our 7 energy centers and really connecting to our body in very specific areas. Of course, it's all linked, but there's it's just so much complexity that you're covering with these different modalities. And you even had sense, of course, right? It's very sensory all around too.
All of it.
Yeah. No,
and I feel somebody can be really blocked in it. We're all energy, right? Everything is energy.
Yeah.
And we can just get so blocked, and it could be anywhere. We have our 7 chakras that we all know of, but there are actually hundreds in our bodies, if not, I don't know how many, but a lot. Yeah. And one thing can sort of get off. And, I've always been a very sensitive person, very empathic person. And, I've had people in the past say, well, you're so sensitive, or you're so sensitive. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm sensitive, and my sensitivity is my superpower, and I love being sensitive. And I feel like when we unblock a lot of these energy centers through sound, through meditation and whatnot, you suddenly start feeling better. You might be able to forgive more, or let something go, or love better, or your confidence comes out, or so many things. You find your voice, or you feel more connected to the divine, or you're listening to your intuition, or whatever it is. And the cool thing about sound bowls is, like I said, somebody can be totally oblivious to any healing going on.
Right.
You don't even have to do anything other than lie there and be open. Somewhat open to the experience, and they're going to receive the gift of healing. There's just, somebody out there could probably disprove my little theory, but I believe that there's no way they cannot receive healing.
No, I completely agree. Yeah. And I think it is interesting because even with Reiki, which I like to talk about in the chakras, and, you can see people glaze over just from, and I used to be those like skeptical and just skeptical, but also just not, what is intuition? Like, what do you mean when like you're hearing this, the voice and like, and I think acknowledging that that is different for everyone, right? Like when we talk about like what is your heart saying? We're not literally talking about your organ. Like there's this whole energy center here that wants to communicate with you. But then your body, like being in your body, as what is it telling you? Are you feeling tingles? Are you feeling, there's this whole other level that I think it is just coming in and being open to it and starting to listen and not block yourself off to the experience. I'm sure you even don't have like magical experiences all the time, right? Sometimes you've got too much going on up here that.
Absolutely. And there are times where I come to my mat and I've got to teach a class and I'm like, I don't want to, like my brain, whatever just happened in the home or whatever is going on at work or whatever, I'm like, I don't have it in me. Right. But because I've been practicing for so long, the second I tap in, and not the second, sometimes it takes a little while, but really I can get to that point. But you make such a good, where I'm like, oh, well, now I'm back in the flow. Oh yeah, this is good. But you make such a good point because there are so many people that, I mean, actually what we're talking about is quite advanced, right? And there's so many people that are more advanced, way. And then there are so many people that are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, so many people are that, and I don't mean this negatively, but we just get checked out. We're so veiled that we don't even, my heart, what do you mean? And my voice, what are you talking about? You mean it is a beautiful reminder that not everybody practices these things, but you have to begin somewhere, right? And actually one of the attributes of good studentship is to have a beginner's mind. And that's why I constantly say I'm a student first, because I know this much and I've been studying for 30 years, you know. I just feel that it's a beautiful thing to come and say, I'm open. I don't know anything. I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm not even in the mood for this, but I'm going to be open.
And curious and receptive.
It's such a cool thing, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
What's that bowl? What's it do?
Well, I think,
okay.
I think our world also, we don't get taught this. It's not like it's a class that you take along with physical ed and math, right? It's not like we're ever taught to like listen to within. We're taught to look at media and the next fad diet and politicians and we're just not taught. So I think starting to have these conversations more and more, because that way of living causes a lot of pain and a lot of anger and a lot of like butting heads, and it doesn't feel good.
No, and then you end up lost and you don't even know why. And I feel like the cool thing is right now there is this sort of surge of consciousness on our planet, and people, they may not know it or they may know it, but suddenly I really feel like people are very drawn to these things. They're more drawn and more curious, like you said, about, well, what is yoga and what is meditation and what is sound healing? And I just feel like the time is now where people are really looking more to, I don't feel my best. What are these things that I can do? And what are these different things I can do? It's not just about going to the gym and running on the treadmill. You know, for the longest time, I would try to offer classes that were gentle or restorative, and nobody would take because they wanted a workout, you know, and sometimes it's just trusting to try something different. All about burning calories.
I used to be that person. Like I started with power yoga. I had to be sweating, right? Had to be at least 45 minutes long. And now I'm like, I just found the path and like connected within and realized that my body actually doesn't do well on really intense
Right.
cardio all the time. It doesn't need it. It doesn't want it. It wants like the slower, the strength, the inner, the breathing, and let it,
Really?
yeah, exactly. Just, yeah, not to be burning the calories to look a certain way, to fit into a certain jean size, right? Like all of that was my reality. And I'm like, this is causing me so much pain and I don't feel fulfilled, even though I look a certain way, right? So it's like, this isn't working. There has to be another way.
Right.
Enter yoga.
Enter sound healing. Well, and it's also that mindset. I remember I was on a walk with a girlfriend. It was about 6 months ago or so. And she's an avid yogi. Really, she is. She comes to my classes all the time. She's practiced yoga forever. And she's like, I don't meditate. I don't like to meditate. I can't sit still. I don't have the time. And I was like, you may not sit on your mat and close your eyes and meditate, but she's an artist and she's also a gardener. And I'm like, every time you paint, what's it feel like? And she describes a blissful state of meditation.
Yeah.
When you garden, what does it feel like? And I'm like, friend, that's what you're doing. You're meditating. It's just a different way. So we can all get to these places in a different way. There's not one size that fits all.
Right.
I think it's just finding, and like you said, being curious and being open to experience the different things. And eventually I believe people will find something that helps them get to that place.
Yeah, no, completely.
It's physical practice, or it's a 2-hour philosophy study, or it's lying in shavasana for 20 minutes, or I mean, you name it. Sound baths, taking a bath.
Yes, yes, all of them, depending what day it is and how you feel. Yeah. One of my, actually, when you were saying before, like tapping into your intuition, I was just curious, what works for you? Like when you're having that moment where you're like, okay, I got to get into the different mindset I'm going to teach, or I'm just out of whack. What is your practice to do that?
Well, it's interesting. So I've always been, since I was little, very intuitive and even like a little bit psychic, and just kind of like having this real sixth sense, and also being very empathic and very sensitive. And so I think I've always been kind of drawn to that, but it's so easy to ignore your inner voice. So a lot of what I've been working on in the last several years is to really hone into my intuition. What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Does it come in as a feeling? Does it come in as a voice? Does it come in just as a knowing, what is it? So as far as that intuition portion, that's kind of my practice, is really figuring out what is it, because for some people it's a hard, fast ping. Other people it's a feeling, and it's different for me. It's mostly a feeling. Oftentimes it's a voice. It's not like I'm like hearing voices, but it's like oftentimes it is just like a really clear voice.
Yeah.
Mostly feeling and just a knowing.
Yeah.
So that's like the straight intuition. But for me, the shift in like attitude, or, like, oh, I feel really crappy, or I'm tired. I think it's when I tap in, like when I go from this to this, like the second I get on my mat and I close my eyes and I start to center my class, I'm doing that part of the practice as well. And I believe so wholeheartedly in the path and what I'm saying. And I believe so wholeheartedly in that inward pivot into my heart that it just happens. I mean, it's part of the magic, I think. The moment I start the chant, or I'm introducing the theme, or I'm have them closing their eyes and we're centering and coming into the breath, and I feel like that's what's being in the flow of grace. Like I just literally align with that one true light, with source. I align with the true light of my heart. I align with spirit, and it just starts to move through me. But it's a conscious choice to do that. I could stay all blah, but it's a constant, or a conscious choice to say, no, right now I'm doing this. And I think teaching yoga has helped me. I remember I was teaching a ton when I was going through a divorce, and there would be times where I'd get on my mat and I would think, I can't teach this right now. I don't feel it. I'm lost and I'm sad and I'm broken and I have all these things going on, but I stuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the teaching started to feel authentic and real again.
Yeah.
There is a time when I think it's really hard. But for me, that's just part of the practice, and is reminding yourself infinitely that there's a path of return.
Oh, I love that.
Even if you get super lost and devastated, like there is a light that you can turn back to. And the beauty is it's always there waiting for you. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't failed me yet. Yeah.
I honestly, the same thing. Like I see it almost as like a relationship. And since I have like a 2-year-old now, like when I go from like my corporate America day job, right? And then he comes home and I go from being like deadlines, to seeing my 2-year-old, and I'm suddenly like, I see him, I focus on him. It's like everything else is just suddenly like, and I've started, like, honestly, since having a child, it's built my own ability to mother and connect with myself, because suddenly the noise that was very distracting before doesn't mean as much as like having that like loving relationship with my son. But I've seen that for me to be what I want to be for him, it gets to be me coming home to me too,
Well, and you see in children, I mean, they're natural yogis, right? They're natural because they're so much closer to God than we are.
Right.
We get so, lost. Right. They're so much closer, and they just have that, like, that awe, wonder still, which is part of what we're trying to get back to. They're so naturally already flowing in a state of grace. They're silly, they laugh when they want to laugh, they cry when they want to cry. It's over. They don't become the tears, they don't become, they're such a beautiful reminder. And it's so sweet that you say that you tap into him like that, and in that moment for you, that's a remembrance. Right, so you're practicing that, which is so cool. And I, for a long time, when I felt like I was in turmoil with relationship or whatever, I started a practice when my little one, she's 7 now, and I have a 17-year-old. So for both of them, when they would talk to me, instead of staying busy with what I was doing, doing or whatever it was, making the dinner, I would stop and I would look into their eyes, like really just stop and look into their eyes where they're talking to me. And the magic and the shift for me was almost instant. It was like, oh my gosh.
Yes,
chills. Sweet you are. Like, look at how innocent you are. Look at the love that, and all you want is for this right now, for me to look at you. And in that moment, it's a remembrance. It's like, well, who the hell cares about the dinner or the dishes or like, let me just have this moment. And in that moment, there's that spark of sweet remembrance.
No, totally. Magic is such a good word, like sparks magic
for us.
Totally.
Is that
oh, so awesome. Yes. Oh, I love this conversation. Yay. Well, let's move. You've mentioned that you do your yoga classes, you do the sound healing sessions. What's the best way for people to find out more about you? Is it Instagram?
Yeah, so I'm working on a website. So I actually finally, it's been my big thing that I want to do in 2021. So 2021 is, I'm gonna get a website.
You got some time.
I'm working on a website because at first I thought, oh, social media is fine, but not everybody is always on social media. I do post my schedule on Instagram and Facebook, and right now that's the best way to find it, or text me. It's pretty old school because it's just me in my studio right now. I am toying with the idea of finding a space in town where I can move my studio and have a more kind of public access. I mean, my studio is open to the public, but I think that it's part of my home kind of throws some people, and they don't know how to find me because I don't have a website. So there's going to be some fun happenings. The website is coming potentially a new location. And then I would be inviting in some other instructors and kind of keeping the essence of the sweetness of this little space, because it's been so good to me for 2 years, but also growing and expanding. So yeah, I'm on Instagram as Align Yoga, and it has a Facebook page attached to it. And
I'll
then
tag that in the show notes, everyone, so you can find it that way too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, they can direct message me, they can text me, my phone number's on there if
Okay.
they want to find out more. And then the retreats that I do, we have a website. So those are once a month healing retreats that we do with 4 other healers. So that's another way to get in touch with me.
What is the website? Is that linked through your page as well?
So it will be on my website.
Okay.
It's Seven Sisters Retreats. So I believe it's just Seven Sisters Retreats .com, www. And it's just it's a small little website. There's 5 of us. And so that's another way to get in touch.
I can't wait to look at this up.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Yay. Well, I always like to end with a question, just in vibrant living ways, so glowing from the inside out. Are there 2 or 3 local people that really inspire you in that way?
Goodness, there are a few. You mentioned Lavender Sun, Larissa. I just adore her. She's lovely. My teachers at Garden Street, Karen, Jen, Terry, they're amazing women and have studied for so long. They're so knowledgeable and wonderful. Garden Street Yoga as a whole to me is, it's, I mean, I have my own studio, but that's also like my home studio. I love very, very much. And then all the ladies I work with, I mean, my friend Holly, she does beautiful healing facials, crystal facials. She's at Blush. She's wonderful. And then my friends Terry and Kim and Tisa. I mean, I have so many like vibrantly living women in my life that I consider sisters and healers and very gifted in their craft. So
oh, amazing. So we should follow you. We should see the retreats, and we'll get to and meet all these fabulous women as well. Awesome.
Take yourself to all that self-love. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Amy, again, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an absolute joy.